Hey folks, Matt aka Stormageddon here, putting on the producer hat at the top of the episode to just flag a little content warning. This episode will concern and be talking about parental loss. So if you do not want to hear about the loss of a parent, for whatever reason, now is a good time to jump ship and see us in the next episode. No problem. Otherwise, on with the episode.
Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hi folks, and welcome to another episode of Side Quests. I am the series producer and editor, Matt aka Stormageddon. I also host a little show called Fun and Games where this show exists in the feed of, so you probably knew that already. I am also the host and producer of Reignite, which is a play-along podcast that started as a Mass Effect podcast and is now going through the Dragon Age series. We're currently, as of this recording that I am doing right now, in the midst of Dragon Age 2, the Act 2 part of it. We just started as of now, and so you can check out that. And I do a variety of other things around the internet. I stream. I don't shut up about the Yakuza franchise, but I'm here today to talk about a game that's really near and dear to my heart, and that I decided to record this episode probably last fall. So a little brief history for those who don't know me super well, though I have posted about this in other places. I unfortunately lost my father last year, as of when we're recording in 2024. He passed in October. He'd been struggling through Parkinson's for quite some time, and when I was with him in hospice, I thought to myself I should honor him and his limited knowledge of video games with something really special. And so today I'm here to talk about Tecmo Bowl, which is an NES football title developed and published by Tecmo. It came out in the States in February of 1989, and it was one of the first Nintendo games I got for my NES, along with stuff like Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, and possibly the first Ninja Turtles game. I don't remember when that came out in the timeline, but it was all around the same time, because I didn't get the NES as soon as it came out. I did get it later, after they were selling the combo pack of Duck Hunt and Mario on one cartridge with the zapper and a controller. And so whenever the timing is that came out is when I got it. And I loved video games since a young age. I've talked about it in a lot of places. I'd say the NES is when I kind of more was in the toy phase. I didn't become like a true capital G gamer, as we like to say, until maybe the Super NES and Genesis, when I really started to like explore stories and understand like how games were made to a degree and like what gaming was. But in the NES days, it was still kind of a toy. I would play quite a bit, and I had a sibling who is 9 years older than me, and so we didn't play a lot of games together. At that point in my life, I was kind of the obnoxious younger sibling, and not a lot of interaction was had, especially playing games together. My dad, however, always wanted to hang out and spend time, and would attempt to play video games with me, and often not be very good at them. But one thing my dad did love, and shared his love with me of, was football. My dad loved sports, football, baseball, Mets fan, Jets and Giants fan, Yankee, like a New York sports fan, diehard basketball, Knicks fan. And I found a minor love of sports through him. It wouldn't be till I became an adult that I would really kind of appreciate certain sports and become a fan for a while and try and keep up with stuff now, but I just can't as much. But football was pretty big for him and big for my brother. And though I didn't have a huge running knowledge of football, I did like playing this arcade game turned Nintendo game. So for those who are not familiar, Tecmo Bowl was an NES game. It was basically a sort of isometric view, like top side view, basically a side scroller for football, and each player would pick a team, or you could play against the computer, and you would go back and forth on the field. The quarters were definitely shorter than real football quarters, I think, and you would select a play before each down, and then enact those plays. As a kid, I had no idea what any of these plays meant. To be honest, as an adult, having recently played the recent Madden game with my nephew, I still don't know what those plays mean. Did beat my nephew, though, so I take that as a point of pride since he plays a lot of Madden. But back then, I didn't know. I imagine my dad had some kind of working knowledge, but I don't actually know. But we'd play this game for hours, often me trouncing my dad because while my dad probably knew the rules of football better, I knew the rules of playing a video game better. And playing a football game with a D-pad and an A button and a B button and nothing else, I mean, it really made the game the simplest it could be. I would play it single player a lot. I played it recently. It's on the Switch Nintendo Online service, Nintendo Switch Online, NSO. There it is. It's on the NSO service for the NES. So if you haven't played it and you have a Switch, you should go definitely check it out. But I just remember us spending hours and hours of playing this game. I can hear the main title theme of the game in my head as I'm talking about it. And honestly, I thought recording this episode would be a lot harder than it is, but I guess thinking about the joy that my dad and I had for this game, like, fills me with so much love. And though I miss him terribly, and it's sad that he's gone, I will always have those memories. And admittedly, focusing on this memory feels really good because in the later days, especially with the struggle with Parkinson's, like, he wasn't the same person he was that I knew growing up, right? We all get older, and we've had grandparents and parents who've gotten older and experienced this on some level or another. If you haven't yet, you will. And so, you know, the man I remember playing this game with was not the man, you know, in the end. And so it's kind of nice to, like, think back on this and revisit it. And honestly, if you want a really great arcadey football game, this one's great. And if you have young kids who have not played a lot of games but want to, like, either are interested in, like, football or just interested in the different kinds of classic video games, Tecmo Bowl is really easy to grasp. And, like, even not knowing the plays well, the getting a sense of what's a running play versus a passing play and all this other stuff. Clearly my knowledge of football lingo, American football lingo, is vast and endless. It can still be a really good time. And I think that if you're an older gamer who wants to bring their kids in, or cousins or nephews and nieces in on some classic games that are really approachable, this would be the top of my list. It's funny playing it on an NSO. I played it while my dad was in hospice during his waning days. I spent a lot of time sitting by his side. He was unfortunately comatose at the time and he could hear us, but he couldn't really interact. And so to pass the time while I was there, I'd play my Switch, and, you know, if I was hanging out with him while someone went to get food or go, you know, see a different member of the family, or, you know, whatever other personal responsibilities we had outside of sitting there, I played a lot of a Castlevania game that I'd never played before, which was a lot of fun and kept me distracted. And I revisited Tecmo Bowl. It just felt right to kind of talk to my dad, tell him what I was playing, telling him I was revisiting this game that we used to play all the time. And it's funny because I don't have any other video games tied to my parents, really, at all. Well, that's not true. If I ever do an episode on Pong, the reason I had an Atari 2600 was because of my mother and her giving me her Atari and Pong. But besides that, my parents didn't play a lot of video games. You know, my dad would come in and check in on me when I was younger and just see what I'm up to and check out whatever video game I was playing. And as the graphics got more and more realistic, eventually it became really fun to bring him into my room and be like, look at this wrestling game. It looks just like Stone Cold Steve Austin. And my dad would have no idea what I was talking about, but was just happy I was happy. But would admit, like, there were later sports games I would play that he would look at and go, I couldn't initially tell if this was a video game or not. That's kind of fun for my dad to get to see that progression from him on the outside looking in, since he wasn't really a big video game player. But also because we didn't play a lot of video games together, while other kids have had that luxury, and I do lament it a little, video games were never really his thing, but he always supported my love of video games. I've told stories about him in the past on my Super Mario 64 episode and some other stuff. And so to have this one video game that we played together that meant so much to both of us is nice to hang on to now. And when I'm feeling nostalgic and really missing him, I can play this game and think about all of those great times we had playing it together. As far as a little more beyond the gameplay, there weren't a ton of teams in this game. It was the AFC versus the NFC. It would only have the states or cities. Like, it wouldn't have, like, their names, like the Raiders, the Giants. So there was a Los Angeles team. It was the Raiders. So the places that had multiple teams, like the New York team was the Giants, they didn't have the multiple teams from that city. It was just one city per team or whatever, or one team per city rather. But still lots of options. I don't know that the stats actually mattered for each team like modern sports games do, but I would always pick, whatever team I wanted. I don't know that it mattered. My dad would always pick the Giants. And yeah, it was, again, it was a fun game. You would usually can switch between the different players on your team. You could throw passes, you could tackle, you could run the ball. Like, it was not the most complex of video games, but it was one that was definitely a lot of fun to play. So anyway, I'm a little bit rambly now, but it felt important to me to make the side quests episode for personal reasons. We talk about how this is about games you love and why you love them. And this is such a unique story of why I love Tecmo Bowl that I really wanted to share it here. I live with some regret that I didn't bring Dad on to talk about it, but I don't know that it would have been the same kind of effusive praise or nostalgic feeling that I had. I'm sure he loved playing games with me of all kind when we were growing up, but I don't know that this game holds a specific memory to him in the same way that just broadly playing games and board games with me did. But to me it does, and I will forever associate Tecmo Bowl with my father, Albert Storm, and I'm really thankful to have that memory. So anyway, thank you for coming with me on this ride. I appreciate you all listening. I appreciate everyone who enjoys the side quests and who have given any time to this series to share their personal stories of why they love a game. I think it's some of the best things about video games that we get to do this. If you want more from me, you're of course here on the Fun and Games feeds. I do a ton here. We have a Patreon. If you somehow didn't know that, which I don't know how, it's patreon.com/funandgamespod. There's a free tier. You can join at the $3, $5, and $10 level. We would love to have you over there. Every dollar goes into the podcast to get better gear, allow us to go to conventions and other things, and any other materials we would need for interviews and other podcast episodes. You can also find me at Reignite. I'm Reignite Pod across most socials. I do that with the incredible Frankie Bradley Lestrange. We're currently, like I said earlier, playing through Dragon Age 2. So if you love Dragon Age 2 or just love two queer goofballs talking about why they romanced who they romanced in the video game, it's a great listen. Yeah, that's really all I've got. Thanks again for being here and for listening. And as always, happy gaming.
Do you find yourself playing older games and wishing that there were new discussions about those games? Enter Tales from the Backlog. Hi, I'm Dave Jackson, and on each episode, I'm joined by a guest to break down those games that may be stuck in your ever-expanding backlog. Each episode looks at one game in depth, focusing on mechanics, story, music, and other aspects with no spoilers until a clearly marked spoiler wall in the middle. If you've played the game, go ahead and climb that spoiler wall and enjoy in-depth story discussions, and if not, jump out when we warn you and maybe go play that game for yourself. We have over 100 episodes in the feed, everything from Disco Elysium to Tunic to discussion episodes about how to get into horror games, and if games actually need to be fun, or if they have more to offer. I guarantee that there's something in there for everybody. Once again, that's Tales from the Backlog, available wherever your podcasts are found.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.